Thunderball is Sean Connery's fourth outing as James Bond. Adjusted for inflation, it is the second highest grossing Bond film ever. Somehow. We are discussing it today on the Golden Hour Film Podcast. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Golden Hour Film Podcast. Say it with me, I am joined by my co-host, not guest host, Shane Mulvaney. Shane, how are you?
I'm very warm, very warm day here in Dublin. Can't crack open a window, but anyway, we soldier on for the love of cinema.
These microphones pick up everything.
Yeah.
I'm somewhat in the sticks, so if I was to open up my window, all you would hear is like pigeons, but they would be loud. Yeah, Thunderball. I have no idea how this movie made so much money. It made an atrocious amount of money. It had a budget of $9 million, which at the time was absolutely no mean feat, considering that the most expensive Bond film previous was, of course, Goldfinger, the film before, which cost $3 million. And yet this made well over $100 million at the time. It made over $140 million at the box office at the time, which even for then, that record doesn't get eclipsed for nearly a decade, but adjusted for inflation, it is the equivalent to a $1 billion movie back then. Yeah. This was a monster success. Somehow, critically, it was also pretty well liked. Shane, I feel like we're in the same boat here. Thunderball.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It's not nearly as good as the previous three.
Nah, I can only attribute the box office success of Thunderball to the fact that the first three films were really good.
Yeah.
So obviously word of mouth, you've gone to see maybe one or two or maybe all three. You liked it, so you're like, oh, the new Bond movie's out. I'll go check that out. I can't really atone for that. I can't really account for the actual, like you said, the critical reception. Makes no sense to me. I didn't like this film at all. I just thought it was plain boring. There's probably one underwater sequence that's genuinely good, and then otherwise the other 79 or whatever, at least it feels like, they all just look the same. They're all shot the exact same, so it's hard to even distinguish between any of them. All jokes aside, after the 6th or 7th underwater sequence, I was just bored out of my skull. I was like, does this film want to do something different, or is it just going to keep doing the same thing over and over again? Bond does have very casual misogyny laced throughout this film, which I know is not necessarily something new to the character, and it's not something new to this iteration of Bond either. It had been popped up every now and then in the previous three films, but especially there's one scene especially early on where he just forces his tongue down a woman's throat. And then
very dodgy scene.
5 seconds later, then it depicts her as being head over heels in love with him. It's like, no, that's that.
He also blackmails this woman.
Yeah, it's like, come on, just there's a lot of nitpicks or even just straight up problems I have with this film. Yeah.
Shane, and by the way, this is in no way a dig at Shane, because if he was to do this to me, I'm sure I would also fail. Shane, I want you to look down the camera, just so we can prove that you are not looking at your notes. Shane, I want you to name the villain in this movie. Shane, I would like you to name any of the 3 Bond girls in this movie.
I know the only interesting one is Fiona. I know Fiona.
Okay.
She's the only mildly interesting villain in this film, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Is it Volpe or Dolby or something to that effect, maybe? I want to say.
Fiona's surname is Volpe.
Is it Volpe? Okay, yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I honestly couldn't.
Could you name the main Bond girl?
Definitely not.
It has to be one of the most forgettable Bond films. It is so forgettable. I also, in my notes, I just called the villain Eye Patch Guy. For anyone wondering, the villain's name is Emilio Largo. I will continue to just call him Eye Patch Guy for the rest of the episode.
That's actually a cool name, in fairness.
I know, right? He's a
not
total non-character.
Yeah.
Total non-character. Emilio Largo, get this, wants money. Oh, but like not in a cool way, like Goldfinger, who wants to nuke the world's gold supply to make him infinitely richer than everyone. No, this guy just steals nukes and then holds them for ransom for the whole movie and demands money. Yay, I'm so glad this film is over 2 hours. What? Yeah, Emilio Largo, or again, Eye Patch Guy, totally forgettable Spectre member. Yes, Spectre are very much on the pulse of things in this film yet again. We get another off-screen Blofeld. We still don't know what that guy looks like. He's still stroking his cat. He's still killing off random Spectre members who disappoint him. And Eye Patch Guy does not want to disappoint. So he successfully steals 2 nukes in a wonderfully convoluted plan in which an agent gets facial reconstructive surgery to look like a pilot who is flying a plane that has these nukes on it. He then kills the pilot and steals the plane, or something to that effect, so that they have the nukes, and then they hold the nukes ransom. And Bond must go to the Bahamas as a result, because of course, something like this couldn't happen in Stoke or Finglas. It's always the Bahamas and Jamaica that Bond ends up going to. But nothing against Stoke or Finglas, although Stoke, I will never go back. Yeah. Oh, such a cold stadium. Such a cold stadium. Like, for such a big stadium, there's so many gaps in the walls. And it's not a warm place to have gaps in the walls of your stadium. Anyway, no offense, Stoke. But yeah, Eye Patch Guy, that is literally his whole MO. I have nothing else to say about him. Bond, we were talking about how maybe it's not misinformation or anything, but it's kind of like whatever the opposite of rose-tinted glasses are looking back on the Bond films with regards to misogyny, because of how many like important, capable, prominent female characters there were, particularly in Goldfinger. Like, there's so many in that film who are all class, regardless of names or whatever. I reckon that might get the last episode. I didn't even think, but I reckon she might get us demonetized. Not that we're gonna get ads on it or anything, but I do wonder, does that episode get hidden? It just dawned on me there, because of the name of the Bond girl in the previous film, who we will not name in this one, just in case that does happen. But she is such an iconic character, and yeah, this film has 3 Bond girls for some reason. One of whom, the incredibly memorable Paula Kaplan, shows up. There's so many scenes to this effect. This is the 60s equivalent to how it feels when a really successful action comedy film in the early 2000s gets a sequel and then gets a threequel. This feels like the threequel, where it's like, if you've heard of Flanderization, it's you take a character, you hone in on their one, it's based on Ned Flanders, you hone in on their one thing that they're known for, and then make that their entire character, and you forget everything else about that character. Like, Ned Flanders wasn't just an insane psycho Christian in the first episodes of The Simpsons, but by the end he was. Flanderization. This is what happens in this film. Everyone in this film feels like a character in almost like a parody of a Bond film, and the Bond girls in this film are no exception. Case in point, Paula Kaplan. She is introduced in a scene where Bond says to Felix Leiter, who has de-aged since the last film, "Oh, this is my assistant, Paula Kaplan." Paula goes down the stairs. 2 scenes later, Paula is in a room waiting to, I don't know, do the thing with James Bond when other Bond girl arrives, Fiona. Paula dies. That is Paula Kaplan, everyone. And there is so many things in this film that just exist to, like, tick a box. We need a Bond girl to die in this film. Let's just introduce that Bond has a secretary or something in the Bahamas. Sure, she doesn't need backstory or character or anything. We'll just say that she is his secretary and then kill her off. And another example, which I know is literally skipping to the end, but it is something that I couldn't help but quote. I won't spoil too much. We'll talk about it more so later on. But a character who was held hostage is saved by a semi-prominent unnamed goon, and when she comes back to Bond after this goon saves her, and Bond sees the goon, Bond says, "Who's he?" And she says, "I don't know, but but he helped me." That's the explanation. Like, there's so many things in this film that just happen just to tick a box on a storyboard. It is a total non-movie. We talked about how From Russia with Love is a worthy sequel. It expands on Dr. No, it fleshes out Spectre, and then Goldfinger goes one step further. It gives you the iconic moments, the iconic gadgets, the iconic henchmen, all that jazz. This film is none of that. There's no expanding on anything. The only thing that this film has as a saving grace is the big, ridiculous underwater harpoon war at the end.
That's
But
it.
we will talk about that a little bit later, because that is literally the ending of the film.
Like, I did like the Thunderball opening credit sequence. It's definitely a lot better than the one from Russia with Love, I believe it was. It's pretty decent. Like, it's definitely on the upper end of what I've kind of come to hear from the Bond films. And the opening scene with Jacques Bouvard, like, he was this like assassin who's been picking off kind of Bond's allies and stuff, and he dresses up obviously as his as himself. Actually, he dresses up as a woman at his own funeral, if that makes sense. So he's obviously, and this is obviously a funeral of a person who isn't dead. Yeah, maybe next week there might be some parallels with that. But yeah, like the opening.
Also, JB on the coffin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like the opening. Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah.
James Bond.
So the fact that kind of it's playing with some interesting ideas early on, and then the fight between Bouvard and Bond is fine. Like, it's not terrible by any means. But then after that, the film just massively falls off a cliff.
Yeah.
I can only agree with everything you just said. Any interesting idea, a plot thread that it sets up very quickly, it'll just shoot it down. And
Yeah.
it's such a frustrating watch, because there is a good film here, but yeah, it's just every time it sets up something mildly interesting, it just goes in a completely different direction and just forgets what it's trying to do.
Yeah, there is a good film here. It's called Dr. No, because most of this has been done already. But
That's
funnily
true.
enough, this was supposed to be the first Bond film, but then there was a huge disagreement with rights and all that stuff. And Terence Young, who directed Dr. No and From Russia with Love, said prior that he wanted to make 3 Bond adaptations. He wanted to adapt Thunderball first, Dr. No, and From Russia with Love. Wasn't allowed to do Thunderball at the time because of all the rights stuff, so Dr. No gets made, From Russia with Love gets made. Then they move on to Guy Hamilton and they do Goldfinger. And then they call Terence Young back in because they've got the rights sorted, and they get Thunderball. And what do they do with it? Pretty much nothing. That being said, this film has a jetpack in it, which is kind of funny because he wears like a moped helmet whenever he rides it. And I read a really funny interview with the not the stunt coordinator, the like effects supervisor on the film, and he was like, yeah, like, do you think we had the money? Sorry, like, it was basically like, do you think we had the money to fake these things? That is a real jetpack. That was like literally from the military. It is so dangerous. So they spent such little time filming it. It was like a one and done thing. He was like, that thing was so dangerous. So we just got the shots, took the guy back down again, and that was it. We could not fake that. We didn't have the money in the budget to fake a jetpack. We had to get an actual jetpack, which is hilarious to me. But yeah. Besides the jetpack and the funny moped helmet and the aforementioned fight scene at the beginning, you could literally fast forward, I should say. You could literally fast forward the next hour and a half of the film. Guess what happens? You'll probably be right. Get to the big harpoon war underwater at the end between the US Navy and Coast Guard and Spectre. And the bad guys, who have one of the funniest team names ever, which I don't know if it actually gets mentioned, but I read it on Wikipedia, so I'm sure it's correct. But Wikipedia calls the bad guys in this film, get this, the Disco Volante crew. Apparently, that's what Eye Patch Guy's minions are called. Is the
Yeah.
Disco Volante crew?
Well,
I think that's the name of their ship. Is it?
yeah, the boat itself is called the Disco Volante, so I guess it makes sense. Yeah, it's a pretty cool name
So
for a ship, in fairness.
the Disco Volante crew and the U.S. Navy and Coast Guard have a big harpoon war underwater. But again, we will get to that at the end because we have so much to talk about in between. Right?
No, I'm gonna have to
No,
disagree.
literally nothing. There is nothing that happens in this film. They steal nukes. They demand 100 million. Bond does that thing that we discussed earlier with a woman, where it's a weird scene
Yeah,
where it's
fair.
like it's implied that this is like a thing that happens after everything. An agent goes to like this sort of rehab center. He's on this totally convoluted 60s exercise machine where it's like stretches him out, and the bad guy like straps him to it and turns it up to the max to stretch him to death or something stupid. But Bond escapes and then kills the guy in a machine, and then she comes back in and she's like, "Oh my god, you could have died." And he's like, "Yeah, well, I could get you in serious trouble for that." And then kisses her and she's like, "No." And then yeah, weird. Really, really weird. These were not the vibes. These were not the vibes. There was that one scene in Goldfinger between him and She Who Shall Not Be Named,
Yeah.
because we don't want this video. We just don't know. We just don't know with YouTube anymore. She Who Shall Not Be Named. There was that one scene, but then they have banter for the next like hour of the film, and their relationship changes or whatever. This is just straight up weird and creepy Bond. Sean Connery, as suave and as cool as you were in the previous three movies, you ain't getting away with this.
No.
There is no way of making this version of Bond likable. We get Q in a Hawaiian shirt. That's a bit of a highlight for me. And that's about it, really, until we get... Oh, Bond grenades a bunch of sharks. What the hell, man? Like, they were just there, and he just throws a grenade and kills them because he wanted to go for a swim. What a dick. Also, speaking of sharks, the iconic sharks in a kid's pool in the bad guy lair. I don't know. I'm sure it comes from this. I can't imagine it happened before this film. It's like a thing that is in like cartoons and stuff, but like the sharks in a really small pool in the bad guy lair is in this film, which is pretty funny. But it's such a small pool, and again, and it's a funny thing with Connery. I read it was like, yeah, no, like we don't have fake sharks; they're actual sharks. So they had to make a pool that had like a hatch that when the shark comes in, Connery could just get the fuck out of there, like get the shot and then get out just in case. So like Connery is in the water with sharks at one point, which is pretty cool. It's the risks they are taking in this film.
Yeah.
But like fair play to you, Connery. I'll give you that. You certainly risked it for King and Country, or Queen and Country, shall I say? Given the times, she was still alive. But anyway, Domino is the Bond girl in this film, in case anyone was wondering.
Yeah.
Whose uncle is Eye Patch Guy, and turns out Eye Patch Guy killed her brother, so she defects from the bad guys and joins James Bond. She's the one who gets saved by the goon at the end, who, as I said, Bond's like, "Who's that guy?" And she's like, "I don't know, but the story says that I had to get out of there." So, yeah. Right, we could talk about the only good part of this film, which is the harpoon war now.
Yeah, like I said, it's the only creatively exciting thing in the whole film, as far as I'm concerned. It's shot like, I think most of the underwater sequences are just very repetitive and they all kind of look the same. This is the only one that's a bit of color to it, a bit of a bit of just they're just doing something a bit different. It's shot differently. It's choreographed well. It kind of, there is a sense of danger to it because there's a bunch of guys fucking shooting harpoons at each other and stuff. So it's like it's the only thing that it's like it's trying to do something different, and it's the only thing that stands out from all these different underwater sequences. So yeah, it's like the only time, especially in the last act, that I was mildly engaged in the film. Just wish the rest of the film had been as exciting as it really.
Yeah, like I have no idea how this was the film that they decided needed to be over 2 hours.
Yeah.
There's so much of this film that could be cut, but with the big harpoon war again, thankfully for the sake of the film, the good guys all dress in red and the bad guys all dress in black. Otherwise, how could we have possibly told who was who? Bond makes his way through all the Spectre goons, and then he chases Eye Patch Guy to his yacht, which is where Domino is held hostage. They get into a scuffle, which leads to this like high speed fight sequence on the boat because someone knocks into the thruster or whatever you call it, which causes the yacht to go ridiculously fast, and then they just brawl until Domino emerges from the shadows and harpoons her uncle to death. Eye Patch Guy is dead, and Bond and her jump to safety. Pretty sure the goon who saved her dies as the ship explodes into a rock, so I guess they'll never know who that guy was who basically saved the world.
And yeah, like just what you were saying there, the sequence where Bond kind of starts to shoot or starts to fight, sorry, Emilio or Eye Patch Guy. Like, I know this isn't again something new for the franchise, and it's not something like that it wouldn't go on to be either. But it's quite campy and just quite cheesy and unrealistic, and just yeah, it's a bit like maybe you can get away with that kind of stuff with being a bit cheesy and a bit cringe nearly if the rest of the film, if the plot itself had been any use, but it's not. So it's like when you have a bad film and when you've had 2 hours of really, really boring film and then you have a really cheesy ending to finish things off, it's like, oh, just, it's like, it's a particularly bad cherry on top of a particularly bad cake.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then if you want to rehash anything more, the film ends with Bond and the Bond girl floating at sea.
Yeah, because like that's the only, definitely hasn't ended
like that's the only ending they have.
Yeah,
it seems that is literally all they have.
They have one
They're
idea.
like, oh, how do we end this thing? Come on, think of something. How do we end the last three? Okay, we'll do it again. yeah, which is hilarious. Not to spoil anything, which is hilarious considering how On Her Majesty's Secret Service ends, which is like tonally so different. George Lazenby, I can't believe you made it into that movie. But yeah, that is how Thunderball ends. Don't worry, everyone. Before we get into our reviews and stuff, I can assure you, I definitely, but I assume Shane also, definitely preferred next week's episode. This is the only bad Sean Connery James Bond film that we will be covering this month. Because You Only Live Twice, we've both already seen it, and I'm pretty sure we both very much preferred it to this.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Okay, cool. So we'll talk about that next week, but this is the only one for all the Bond fans out there that we did not like. We absolutely loved the previous three, and we definitely preferred the next one. But Shane, Thunderball, is it any use?
Nah, I'd give this, unless you're a James Bond completist, I'd probably give this a skip, to be honest. Yeah, it's everything I've just said, really, it's boring, it's uneventful, and even when it is eventful, I didn't give a damn about what was happening on screen. There's very, very few characters to care about other than Bond, really, and even then, this particular depiction of Bond is like by far my least favourite when it comes to Connery. Like, it's nothing necessarily to do with his performance, although he does look slightly less interested as the film goes on. Maybe he was getting he could see which way the wind was blowing, but especially like early on, like we said, with the what goes on in the kind of massage parlour and stuff, and or this spa, whatever you want to call it. Again, it basically does the same thing with the Bond girls or Bond women, in the sense of like, oh, she's a baddie, but then she has a moment of redemption, and it's like, oh, come on, just do something a bit different here, please. Like 78 underwater sequences feels like a really cheesy fight sequence to finish things off. Well, actually, to properly finish things off, then out at sea, stranded at sea, and like, wink, wink, what do you think they're going to do here? It's like, come on, you've done that ending already a bunch of times. Come on, just...
There is no reason for this movie to exist other than cash.
No, exactly, yeah. It's like, it's a shame. At least they kind of bring things back a bit with next week's episode. We Only Live Twice, which obviously we'll get into in more detail next week. But yeah, it's the one Connery Bond film, I think, so far that I've seen that Yeah, I wasn't on board with it. I didn't like it.
Yeah. What you give it out of 5?
Two, gave it 2 out of 5. Yeah, did consider giving it lower, but I guess the harpoon fight does bring it up a tiny bit.
Yeah, I agree. I also gave it 2 out of 5. Which, believe it or not, it's not my least favorite Sean Connery Bond film.
Oh well.
Yeah, there is worse in my opinion. Uh, yeah, this is a film that exists. I can't get over how much money this movie made. It makes no sense. Like, how was the word of mouth on this good? How do you come out of like back to back to back cinema experiences of Doctor No, From Russia with Love, and Goldfinger, and then see this and go, yeah, no, that's just as good. Like, it is so clearly nowhere near as good as the other three movies. It is pointless. Bond isn't very cool. It's lacking any sort of energy
Yeah.
other than the ending, which is the saving grace of the film. But spending an hour and 45 minutes meandering is not worth getting to that ending. I would also skip this film if you haven't seen it already, to be honest. I would absolutely recommend the previous three, but this one, no, certainly not for me. I'd seen it before and I seemed to have preferred it, but I don't know. I could never get into this except for the ending. I also found the music so repetitive. I feel like the score is so half baked. It's like the same. It's like the same two songs over and over and over again, which is so not Bond. Like with Goldfinger, for instance, even when they use the Bond theme, sometimes they will actually blend it into the Goldfinger theme, or they'll use a different song. Like it's layered, even though you're technically only using say 4 songs. If you're like meshing them into different versions of each other, it works. This is just the same 2 tunes over and over again, which I found irritating, considering this is, yeah, pointlessly long for what it actually has to say, which is nothing. I would have much preferred if Bond had to go to Stoke or Finglas. It would have been a much more interesting film, but that's just my take. Or like Dagestan or Siberia. Just somewhere like we've seen him on so many tropical islands. Just somewhere different. Somewhere different. The Arctic. Actually, yeah, the Arctic would be cool. I'm sure there is a Bond film where he goes to the Arctic.
I feel like they did not do that in No Time to Die. I feel like maybe. I haven't seen that since. I feel like there's some
I
sort
haven't
of.
seen it since it came out, and which is weird because I really liked it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. I feel like there's definitely some sort of snowy location that he's in, but maybe it's not the Arctic. Maybe it's somewhere else.
Maybe. But yeah, wasn't a big fan of this. And now we are going to talk about. Have you watched much recently?
Yeah, I actually managed to get a few things watched. Yeah.
Well, I'm about to blow everyone's minds because I, Shane, believe it or not, you will be so proud of me, have made it past season 1 of not one but 2 different series.
Oh, you.
Which is unheard of for me. First and foremost, because I'm pretty sure, let me just double check, but I'm pretty sure I haven't watched any movies prior to me starting this first series. Let me double check. I haven't, no. I have started, I don't know if you saw on Letterboxd, Twin Peaks.
Oh, yeah, I did see that, yeah.
Oh my God. For context, my only David Lynch film that I had ever seen, and moral of the story, because it's happened to me a bunch of times, don't ever watch high concept, highbrow, forward thinking, big brain films hungover. Don't do it. Don't do it. I watched Eraserhead hungover and I fucking hated it. I absolutely need to go back to that film. Because first and foremost, for context, as of recording this, I am over halfway into season 2 of Twin Peaks now. Nice. But the main character of Eraserhead, who is, oh my God, what's his name? I know he's Pete in Twin Peaks. Jack Nance. Jack Nance is so funny in Twin Peaks. The fish in the percolator scene, I have been quoting ever since I saw it. Twin Peaks has always been like a thing where everyone's like, oh, it's so confusing. You'll spend the whole time trying to figure it out and you won't get it. Like, no, Twin Peaks is actually a lot more accessible than people make it out to be, first and foremost. I also would say, as a person who has seen literally one of David Lynch's films and didn't enjoy it because he was hungover, so I actually have really no right to say this, I would assume that Twin Peaks has to be the right way to start watching David Lynch, because it's him doing exactly what he wants, and it is so amazing. The entire first season is about one of the greatest lead characters in TV for me, Special Agent Dale Cooper, played perfectly by Kyle MacLachlan. He is so amazing in this series, investigating the death of Laura Palmer. It is such a fascinating case. It's so interesting. The town of Twin Peaks is so interesting. There's so, like, the first episode, the pilot, which some people consider a movie because it's 90 minutes long, has to be 90 minutes long, because the series is called Twin Peaks. It doesn't just cover Special Agent Dale Cooper investigating Laura Palmer's murder. It covers, like, basically everyone who lives in Twin Peaks, and they are all so memorable. They're like, you've got characters like Hawk, who is like the coolest deputy agent ever. He's a Native American who is like just an unbelievable tracker. It's like every episode Hawk just gets a task and he just gets it done. He is like so efficient. He's so good at his job. And then you've like Log Lady, who's just this old woman who sits in the corner stroking a log, and then once every series she comes out with like a vital piece of information because her log saw it. Like, it's so amazing. Season 1 is absolutely perfection, and then people have the consensus that in season 2, because it's not really a spoiler, but the death of Laura Palmer doesn't get solved in season 1. It gets solved in season 2, and when it does get solved, that episode is unbelievable. One of the best episodes of television I've ever seen. And then you could argue that they didn't really know what to do then, because David Lynch took a bit of a step back from the series for a few episodes because he wanted to work on other stuff. It kind of meanders for a few episodes, and then it kicks back into gear when David Lynch comes back again. But that being said, I'm currently on those episodes where it supposedly meanders, and I'm still enjoying them. There's some there's some weird side quests that some of the characters are going on. Currently, there's a weird adoption thing where Andy and Dick think that this child is the devil. There's, for context, Dick is just the guy who works in the menswear shop in Twin Peaks, and somehow they have like a really important storyline for a few episodes. And James, who's the biker who everyone clowns because of his facial expressions, who was like really cool in the 90s, and now everyone dunks on him for some reason. He has this weird side story where he's fixing a woman's car for 4 episodes. Bizarre, but not bad. I think it's just because, like, up until they solve Laura Palmer's murder, it is like just perfect TV. Like, it is so amazing. And I'm so close to getting to Fire Walk With Me, which I now cannot wait to see, because it's partially the reason why I started watching it as well. Fire Walk With Me is basically a prequel movie to the entire series about the last week of Laura Palmer's life, which, as you watch the series, you just can't help but wonder, what does that even look like, because of all the stuff that you find out happened in that week throughout the series. Oh my god, Twin Peaks is such a cult fan base, and I so get it. I want to watch all of David Lynch's films now. I totally get it, and Twin Peaks has done that for me. I then watched The Naked Gun that came out this year, which is a barrel of laughs, a stupid movie, but also a clever movie. Very, very fun. Very fun. Very akin to the original Naked Gun. It's stupid and it's clever. And then I've watched a full season of Slow Horses. Because there's a new series. Yeah, there's a new series coming out this next month, isn't it?
Season 5, I think, next month. Yeah, and they've already either shot season 6 or they're about to shoot season 6, and it's been renewed for season 7. So it's like they're just churning out these seasons.
Yeah. So I've watched season 1 now. I've just finished season 1. Very, very good show. Also, I'd love to give it its flowers and stuff, but like Twin Peaks, so, like as soon as we finish recording today, I'm gonna go and watch more Twin Peaks. It's so
I
class.
want to, yeah. I've always wanted to.
Ah, like
The,
it's.
the, the only Lynch film I've ever seen is Mulholland Drive, which I absolutely loved. And I understood about 15% of it. But like,
I think it's interesting because again, I haven't seen Mulholland Drive, which I know is like a sin in itself. But supposedly, or for a lot of Lynch fans, you can see a lot of characteristics in some of the lead characters in Twin Peaks, in the characters in Mulholland Drive. I don't know how true that is because I haven't seen Mulholland Drive, but like supposedly, I think characters like Audrey and like Bobby Briggs like are similar-ish to characters in Mulholland Drive. Not sure. The plan is finish Twin Peaks season 1 and 2, watch Fire Walk with me, then I'm gonna watch Blue Velvet, Mulholland Drive, maybe some more. Then I'm gonna watch the third season when they came back in 2017 and made a third season, which just looking at the cast, I'm like, oh my god, I just can't wait to get to that as well because the series is so good. It's so great. Like, it's so worth the hype. I do not watch TV at all. I only consume it. Shane understands this because I literally say I never watch TV. Twin Peaks for me is like up there with Game of Thrones for like, and I know Game of Thrones is a terrible final season, or at least final 3 episodes, but you know the first 7 seasons of Game of Thrones is like exceptional TV. Twin Peaks is like the equivalent for me, but like it's obviously so much shorter. I cannot wait to watch more Twin Peaks. What about you, Shane?
yeah, I definitely want to watch that as well. So I watched a film
It's on
called...
Mubi for anyone who's wondering. Everything Twin Peaks. I think all of Lynch's movies are all on Mubi, in case anyone's wondering.
Nice. So yeah, I watched a film called Charlie Varick, which is a heist thriller starring Walter Matthau. Enjoyed that a lot. Might have more to say on an upcoming short video. Who knows? Maybe. Knocked Up. I rewatched Knocked Up. It was one of them where it was just on. So I turned it on. It was just one of them where I was just browsing and it was just on. So like, alright, I'll watch this for 10 minutes. And I watched the whole film. Yeah, it's really good. I love Knocked Up. Again, it is a rewatch, so I had seen it before. How to Steal a Million is another heist, but this is more of a heist caper, heist comedy from William Wyler, actually starring Audrey Hepburn and Peter O'Toole. Yeah, it's good fun. It's definitely like light and frothy, and definitely a lot like more of a lightness than your usual kind of heist film for sure. The Italian Job, the original Italian Job, not the remake from F. Gary Gray from 20 odd years ago. We're going to be covering it on the podcast next month, so tune into that episode to find out what I thought about that. Broadcast News is a James L. Brooks kind of drama, kind of comedy drama about the broadcast news industry. It's about the television news industry, and it's set in the 80s. Yeah, I enjoyed this a lot. It's got really good performances from Holly Hunter, William Hurt, Albert Brooks. Yeah, I enjoyed that a lot, so I definitely recommend anyone interested in that to kind of give it a show, give it a watch. Weapons is the new Zach Cregger film, so anyone who's seen Barbarian.
Barbarian.
Yeah, it's great. Weapons I really liked. I don't know if I quite loved, but I definitely really liked. It's definitely freaky. It's definitely like spooky and suspenseful, and I wouldn't say it's scary necessarily. I don't think there's any scares, any like genuine scares in there, but there's like a sense of uneasiness and dread kind of running throughout the film. So it's, I've seen people kind of compare it to, like, narratively speaking, structurally speaking, to like a Pulp Fiction, or even something like Paul Thomas Anderson's Magnolia, in that sense. Like it'll follow a character around, then it'll jump to another character and see their point of view, and it'll jump to someone else and see their kind of how they arrive. It's definitely got those. I can definitely see both of those comparisons, but the one film for me that's kind of similar in a way too is Denis Villeneuve's Prisoners. So it's like, yeah, so Roger Deakins, actually, who shot that film, that film does not have any sunlight whatsoever. Now that Weapons does, there's quite a bit of sunlight actually at certain points, but in the sense of there's also quite a lot of scenes kind of shot in the pouring rain, and where it's kind of lots of greys and dark greys, and it's also more the tone and the atmosphere that it's trying to give you. It's more like morally dark and morally evil kind of film, where it's just, it has that kind of thing permeating. So it's all about 17 kids. Again, Prisoners is also about the abduction of kids. So it's 17 kids who go missing from their home randomly on one night, and what happened to them, where did they go, why did they go. It's all these kind of questions. This kind of rocks, obviously, this small town. And, I won't spoil, obviously, what happens, but it definitely has those kind of similarities to Prisoners, I think, and kind of how it makes characters from this town, how it makes them kind of do things they maybe wouldn't necessarily like of themselves, let's say, as they try and work out this mystery of what actually happened. Bring Her Back is another horror film. It's these two guys. They're actually former YouTubers from Australia.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Talk to Me. I don't know if you've seen that, have you?
I actually haven't seen it either. It was a film I got like 5 minutes into, and then I got like last minute called into work or something.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, I always find it really hard to get back into a movie that I've like just started.
Yeah, so I've not seen Talk to Me, but I have obviously seen this. This has a great, wonderful performance from Sally Hawkins. For anyone who doesn't know, she's Paddington's adopted mother. She's also Willy Wonka's mother from the recent Paul King movie. So she's a great actress, but this is very much her playing kind of against type as... I won't say exactly who she's playing or what she's playing, but yeah, she's definitely doing some stuff I personally haven't seen from her before. Brilliant performance. But the film itself, I don't know, like it's definitely gory, it's definitely bloody, and it's nasty. There's just a real nastiness that pervades the whole film. But it didn't quite click for me. But maybe if you're more, I've said before, I'm just not really that much of a horror guy. So I think maybe you, Harry, or other people, if you're more of a horror person, horror fan, maybe it will click for you more than what it did for me. And another film that'll be The Asphalt Jungle, that'll be kind of going into more depth on that particular heist. The Asphalt Jungle, who knows, we might be covering that podcast soon, but that's I will be going into more depth on a short video maybe soon. And also then finally The Last of the Mohicans, which is a Michael Mann film, so of course it's one of the most beautiful looking films you can possibly think of. That guy,
Yeah, that's one of my dad's favourites that I still haven't seen.
Yeah, it looks a million bucks, which again every Michael Mann film does. Like, he has such a great visual eye, such a way of making things seem so grandiose. A real romanticism running through pretty much all of his filmography, and especially in this film. Daniel Day-Lewis is in this, he's really good. Wes Studi is a great character actor. For me, steals the film as obviously as this Native American guy. Yeah, it's definitely not one of my favourite Michael Mann films, but I would still recommend it. I did enjoy it, and I would still recommend it if you're a Michael Mann fan. And that's everything I've watched recently, yeah.
And yeah, so next week we are covering You Only Live Twice, which features the face of Blofeld. Finally, at the end of this month, we will finally know what that guy looks like. Is he just a man with no head? We don't know. I'm sure we'll find out next week. And yeah, as Shane alluded to / said, we are covering a few heist films next month. Which ones exactly? We will tell you next week on the Golden Era Film Podcast. But in the meantime, I have been Harry Bailey.
I've been Shane Maloney.
And this was the Golden Era Film Podcast episode where we covered the incredibly memorable Thunderball. Shane, one last time, what is the name of the villain of this film?
Emilio. Yeah, I've only got Emilio. Is it? Yeah, Emilio. I know it's Emilio. Eye patch guy.
Eye patch guy. There we go. See y'all next week. Goodbye.